Evening, everybody. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on what will be a very interesting and eye-opening session. And this evening, I'm very pleased that the HMO Success System, this is my business here, let me point in the right direction, is hosting a webinar on behalf of Kevin Whelan from Wealthbuilders, and he'll tell you a little bit about what he does. Just to let you know, if you haven't come across us before, HMO Success is a business helping you to develop a profitable HMO portfolio. So our goal is to help you develop a profitable HMO portfolio, whether you're starting off or you are scaling up, or you are systemizing your business. These are often the stages that we find people are at, and we're here to help you transform knowledge into wealth. And of course, this is why, as a partnership, we have lots of different relationships, lots of different business relationships. And one of our partner relationships, it's not a formalized partnership, but it's a very much a conducive business relationship between ourselves and Wealthbuilders, myself and Kevin. We've known each other for many years. We've followed each other's paths, our progress, and there is no one I know better to explain and describe to you the topic that we have tonight. Now, I know a lot of people get put off thinking about pensions. They don't want to talk about pensions. They feel they're very dull and boring and they're, something to worry about later life. But I can tell you that a SSAS pension is a totally different animal. And Kevin is going to unlock some of those secrets of SSAS pensions, if I can get my teeth in. SSAS pensions. She sells seashells on the seashore, and will help you to understand how important and valuable a tool they can be if you're looking to invest in property. So, Kevin, really, without further ado from me, I will hand it over to you. And I just want to say a massive thank you for you being here tonight. I know we're going to have a great session and there's going to be lots and lots of questions at the end. So,
well, first of all, thank you for the warm introduction and on a warm evening as well. And we were just chatting about lots of people probably preferring to be outside having a glass of something nice. And I'm looking forward to that tomorrow as my son gets married. But from the ultimate HMO to the ultimate pension, although pensions are grey and dreary, and I'll come on to that, most people run out of money before they run out of ambition, and HMO's no exception to that, because you've got to leave some money in the deal. So what I want to do is share with you how you'll never run out of money and be able to get access to money that's either right under your nose or right under other people's noses, and they just they don't really understand what I'm going to share with you, really. So with your permission, I'll just share the screen. But just as you said, in your introduction, Wendy, whether you're starting, scaling, or systemizing, you've got to master the art of sustainable funding. Because I was just talking to the client today, and they were incensed that a bridging company had pulled a deal at the last minute. And can you imagine all the work, all the time, energy, and effort you put in? And we can see there the reasons why banks are so much harder. And I want to try and remove your dependency on banks and have more independence and interdependence, showing you how you can get access to money and money from other people as well. And in truth, we have to master this, because there's no point having a lot of time, money, software, even systems to find deals unless we can find the money. And as I mentioned earlier on, everybody runs out of money before they run out of ambition. So let's see how we can get the money and keep it flowing. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about me, but I will just say this, that if you want any of my books, which are really around the wealth subject, all you need to do is connect with me personally, and I'll send you all three. So nothing to offer, but just free information, and I'm more than happy to do that. And just a quick nod to my podcast called Wealth Talk and our passion for financial literacy and for legacy. Really, really important things. And you can tell by the wizened expression, I've been around a few years. It's my 30th year of guiding other people to help them build wealth. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is the best legacy tool I've seen in 30 years. And I don't do anything else. I don't have a day job. I don't have any other time, but just spending time building wealth and showing other people how to do the same. And what I've discovered over that period of time is the most overlooked and undervalued source of money is the grey and dreary money that Wendy mentioned. Most people just hate pensions. They've got, just the word sounds dreary, doesn't it? I'm being pensioned off. When is your pension? It's always about being old, being grey, some long, long time in the future, not today. And as a result, people get confused, frustrated. I was talking to a chap recently and he said, I've got no idea how much I've got and no idea what it's going to be worth in the end. And if you can recognize that in yourself or almost, which is just as important, recognize that 95% of the population are doing this, they're just losing all control of their money. But you can help them bring that control back, not just for you, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment, but also how other people can take control. And part of taking control means you become part of the solution. So in other words, I'm going to show you how you can be an educator and help others discover something I'm going to share with you. And as a qualified IFA, but someone who I really like to think of myself as an AFA, an alternative financial advisor, certainly one who tells the truth about fees and charges. And it just shocks me continually how people don't know how much they're paying in charges. And typically it's 2%, which means, doesn't sound a lot, does it? 2%? That's not a lot, Kevin, 2%. But when the average return in the stock market is around 6%, that's a third of your money going to somebody else who just sets the plan up and then actually doesn't do much because everything's done automatically these days, has no accountability, no risk, and puts none of their money in and get paid before you. I'm not sure that's a great deal. And I think many people, particularly in property, are willing to challenge that because they're looking for an alternative, which is why they're doing HMOs and other strategies as well. So the language that's already been hinted at is the language of SSAS. Not a great word, wouldn't win any marketing prizes, nothing to do with the armed forces and nothing to do with software as a service. But if you think about it as a bank account, but instead of somebody else controlling the access and saying, you can't touch this until you're in your 50s or 60s, I'm going to show you how you can touch the money now, but you have to qualify for it. And the overriding qualification is, can you run a business? Can you run a property business? If you can do those things, then the big realization I want you to get is whatever business you're in, whether you're manufacturing widgets or whether you're buying HMOs to build a portfolio, you're in business and your business is going to be taxed and taxed heavily. A small self-administered scheme, which basically is a pension scheme for directors of businesses who own and take back control of their money in a tax-free business. And I'll talk about the tax benefits later. But can you imagine having a business with no tax to pay at all? And moreover, the government will pay you to do it because they want you to build sustainable wealth for yourself. So this is only for SMEs, need a limited company. Of course, over the recent years, we've seen a proliferation, haven't we, of property owners owning their properties less and less in their sole names, but increasingly in limited companies, which is why we've helped literally thousands of property people turn their old pensions destined for the 60s and giving them access to that money now, building their wealth today, giving them something they can use today. So you don't need to wait until you're in your 60s. A SSAS gives you access today because you end up being the owner and controller. Now, don't worry about, oh, does that mean I need to be a pensions lawyer? Does that mean I need to be an expert? No, you don't. The money gets moved into a place where you have control of the bank account, but the normal administration people that do pensions are around. They do all that work. So today, don't think about complexity. Don't overthink anything. Just think, if you've got some money in your life, or you know somebody who's got money in their life, in their pension, Would you like to get access to it today so that you can build your wealth in HMOs or your strategy, not the stock market paying somebody else? And if you do, and many thousands of people we work with have done, I'm going to show you how to do that through just a few case studies, nothing heavy, of people who are doing this and in 4 different ways: buy, bridge, borrow, and bank. Buy means you can take the money you've got in your pension and you use it and you go and buy assets. Now, how do you do that? Well, this is one of my clients, Mark, who didn't know anything about that. Corporate background, but interestingly enough, a SSAS, a small self-administered scheme, or how small is small? Well, actually, it's a collaborative pension. You can have up to 11 in the scheme. Now, I've never seen a scheme with 11, but it's not unusual to have 1, 2, 3 people combining their money. And this is what happened here. So Mark and his business partner, Nigel, and their 2 wives, they put their money together that they'd had in corporate pensions over their working life. When they stopped the corporate life, they were frustrated with the pension, wishing it were better every year when they saw the statement. But in the course of the learning about SSAS, taking the responsibility to take that money over, in 24 months, just about, they doubled the value of the pension that it took them 25 years to build. And no secret as to how they did that. Really, you have to add value yourself. You use the money and you do things yourself. And that's what the money does for you. So let's take an example. If these 4 people, and I'm making the numbers up just for simplicity and no other reason, if they all had 250,000 after 25 years in commercial life, and then they put that money together, they've now got $1 million. What does $1 million give you? Cash, buying power, negotiation power, multiple projects, instant action. So because you can find yourself very often these days in a buyer's market, then you can control and eliminate other people from the competitive, because you're not really borrowing bank money. You're using your own money or other people's. So they did commercial offices, commercial to resi projects, bought a shopping precinct in Essex where the lower portions of the properties were commercial and were owned in the SSAS, and then they sold the upper portions from the SSAS to themselves, essentially, which means they got wealth today and wealth tomorrow. And they got so good at it and so excited about it, they started telling others. And then other people said, well, that sounds like a great idea. Can I come and work with you? Can some of my money be invested in some of your projects? More of that in the bridge strategy. Now, this is not bridging as you know it. This is not bridging as in you're borrowing money from an institution who charges you fees on the front end, fees in the back end, big chunky interest rates in the middle, of course, which can knock out a lot of profit. But this is bridging with a difference. This is bridging with other people. Now, how did that work? Well, let's give an example. Chris and Tracy here on the left, clients of mine, Lloyd's Bank bankers and accountants in the bank. So goodness me, how cautious were they? Super, super cautious. Took them a year to make up their mind, but they did make up their mind. And by the way, that's important. Take time to learn things. Don't dismiss them and prejudge them. Just be curious about them. And they were, and they decided to get into property, but they didn't know how. So they were connected to the gentleman on the right called Christopher, who is a property developer, an HMO expert up in the Northeast, who had 150 rooms, but he'd run out of deposits, had no more money, essentially was waiting for refinancing and so on. So what happened here is Chris and Tracy loaned, so bridged some of their pension money and loaned that money to Christopher. So Christopher got more money, more property. His wealth was growing. Chris and Tracy got an interest rate, so a loan with an interest rate, not an equity participation, an interest rate, and they got to watch and look over Christopher's shoulders. So therefore, they got a knowledge return. More of that in a little bit later. So you can see that magic can happen. And what I want you to imagine is you could be either of these people. You could be Chris and Tracy, or just Chris, with money in your own pension. And by the way, I mentioned about Tracy because, you know, a lot of women these days just lose track of their pensions, and there's 27 billion. That's a huge sum of money, ladies and gentlemen, have lost money, forgotten, and much of it is in the hands of women who've forgotten that they've got money that they used to have when they were in a company, they had when they were single, and when they got married, they forgot to make the connection back to that. So this is the important part, that everybody's got money somewhere. Everybody's got a pension somewhere, particularly if you've got a job, or other people have got jobs, they got pensions, and that money can be used. So you could be either the person who uses the money or the person who borrows the money. The third strategy is the borrow strategy. Now, there's no other pension in the UK at all, not a SIP, not a personal pension, not an employer pension, that allows you to open the box and take the money. And in this case, the borrow strategy allows you to lend 50% of the value of the combined pensions that you've got in there. So if you were talking about Chris and Tracy, for example, who, let's again just assume it was two big pensions. I'll use round numbers for illustration. They had $1 million. How much could they lend to themselves? $500,000. Well, if you can lend $500,000 to yourself and then use that money to essentially buy any asset you wanted to, so whether it's residential property, whether it's, well, anything really, anything that your business does, you can do. Yes, there are some rules. You know, there's some interest rates. Well, that's fine, but you're borrowing your own money and you're paying yourself back. So it's like you become your own bridging company, and that's a very, very powerful way to get access to money. And no other pension allows you to do that. Which is when I discovered that, it's like, wow, how can you get the government to give you tax back and then give you access to the money at the same time? More about tax, as I mentioned earlier on. So here's one of my clients, Toby and Kate. Toby used to work for Deloitte. So again, successful employee, was doing property on the side, especially HMOs as well. But they discovered something, that if you've got cash, you can buy things other people can't buy. So on the left-hand side here, this is down in Dover. There was a dilapidated property. You can see it. Well, it doesn't look terrible, but it's not in a good way on the inside. And because it was dilapidated, they loaned money from their SSAS. They bought in cash. People who didn't have, had to borrow money, couldn't buy that. So there's less competition. Then, and this is interesting, know your council. Now, we know if you're in Birmingham, your council's bust, but other councils are not. And in this case, the local council loaned them 40,000 interest-free. Yes, indeed, interest-free, to develop and bring up to speed that property. And as a result of that, they were able, by using their pension, lending it to themselves, getting a top-up loan from essentially from the local authority, to buy a property which is now yielding, let's say in round terms, 1,000 a month. And they're doing it now. They're not waiting until their 60s. They're doing it now. And this was so simple but so elegant that Toby and Kate won the SSAS Investor of the Award for 2023. And another Wealthbuilder client won 22. And we just put some cases forward, and we very much hope that our investors will win 2024 as well. We're just really, really brilliant at doing this. And I don't say that in any self-serving way, but just to help people understand the art of what's possible. When you're building wealth, you've got to be creative, and being creative with money is an important skill. Now, when you do get old and grey like me, then you can access money through the bank strategy. So I've got a very large SSAS, and essentially I run the bank account. Now, I can do it because I want to do it. Others would use a professional to do that. But it means, therefore, I've got a giant ATM that I can take money out when I want to. I can take tax-free, up to 25%, but I can take withdrawals at any time, just pay income tax on it, no national insurance on it. And I can borrow the money through the loan facility that I just mentioned. So if you do both, you're getting 75% of your money out. And you see that while you might not need to understand everything, isn't it interesting that pensions can be creative, that you can get money out and you can do things with? Just a year or so ago, we had a SSAS online conference and we had 1,000 people registered for it. And my wife was like shocked. She's like, what, 1,000 people talking about pensions, Kev? You got to be joking. But people can have fun with this. And we see now we've got a community, some 5,000 strong, and they're loving either learning about SSAS, like Chris and Tracy, taking their time. And I would encourage you to do the same. Take your time, but put it on your agenda to learn, because the knowledge just doesn't just pay you and your pension, but you can help other people who, as I said, are fed up and frustrated with pensions they've got. Now, I mentioned earlier on, I'm keen on financial literacy for children, and I've been part of a program to get financial literacy taught in primary schools. But I'm big on legacy. I mentioned my son's getting married tomorrow. That's getting the second one off my hands, third one yet to go. But I'm really big on legacy. And because of SSAS, you can invite your children in. It's a trust fund, I mentioned, a family trust fund. It could be the Whelan family trust or the Smith family trust or the whittaker-large family trust or whatever it is. You choose, but then you can invite whenever you want to your grown-up children in, which means you've got them into a wealth simulator. You've got them learning, you've got them doing, and ultimately they can take over the trust when you go, because the secret of building wealth is building assets that outlive you. They give you a steady flow of income, but if you do it well, your assets will outlive you. And if they outlive you, then you need to create great legacy. And SSAS is the best legacy I've ever seen. It's inheritance tax free and free of income tax for the next generation as well, in some circumstances. Never seen anything like it. And literally, and this is what I do for a living, and I've never seen anything as powerful as this for a legacy. Not a family investment company, not creating a limited company, giving them shares. And no, this is the best form of legacy that you can get, because everything is tax free. There's no income tax, no capital gains tax, no inheritance tax, no national insurance tax, no tax. And moreover, if you have got a profitable company, and many of our clients are business owners, and they hate paying corporation tax. If you've got a business in the room, do you love paying corporation tax? No, because if you do, that money's gone. With the SSAS, you claim the corporation tax back, and now you can access it. And that's why business owners love it. And that's why property business owners love it. Now, most property business owners don't get to it until it's a bit further down the line, if they're looking to make contributions and pay money from profit, because they've got directors' loans and all sorts of things. But if you've got existing pensions, that's the key. And how you do that then is understand who is eligible for SSAS. Because with a personal pension, workplace pension, you're just signed up. There's no complexity. You don't have to qualify. SSAS you do, because each scheme is individually approved by HMRC. And we deal with thousands of schemes, and we've had none of them declined. So we know if you would qualify. But in simple terms, you need to be a business owner, ideally with some old pensions, either lost and forgotten that you can bring back to the table, or you've got a profitable business, or you've got some other people you want to collaborate with. Husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, siblings, business partners, property partners, people doing business together. So the collaborations just don't stop. Any kind of pension, pretty much, if it's what we call money purchase or money in a pot, what that means is the value goes up, the value goes down, you know the thing. If you've got one of those kind of pensions, then you can move it. You can get control of that. You can put it in your own trust fund, and that money is now accessible to you. You can't call up Legal and General, Aviva or Aegon or SJP or Hargreaves Lansdown and say, I'd like to buy an HMO with my pension. Can I do that? They're going to say, no, 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 no. SSAS, you can. So this is the key skill that I'm trying to get across to you. Sadly, just as there's eligibility always, there's some things which are not eligible. And what's not eligible? Public sector pensions. So if you work for public sector, civil servant, doctor, dentist, teacher, fireman, by a person. Is that what they call them these days? I don't know. But whoever you work for, if it's public sector, you can't move that money. That's because there's no money there. Nor can you move something called an annuity. I won't explain it because you'll know if you've got one or not. You give your pension money away, and then somebody gives you an income stream, and your money's gone. There used to be the rave in the 90s, not so much now, but still some people have got them, and you can't move them. And final salary schemes, those ones you build up through years of service, can be moved, but there's some challenges with that, which is, I would say that's an amber light, probably not a red light. And I'm just going to switch gears a little and just mention that even if you don't have a pension, that you're one of the people that never liked them, that's why you do property. Recognize this, though, that 95% of the population have them. And if you can help them understand there's a better way, they know their money's at risk, don't they? Because they don't know what's going to happen to the value. They can't do something tomorrow and add value like you can to an HMO. So if you can show them that you can add value, then maybe they'd be willing to invest with you. And my experience is when they do that, they don't want to go back to the stock market. They want to lend to you, and they want to lend again. And when you say, would you like your money back? No, 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 no. Have you got another project? And there's a secret to this that I've discovered, having done hundreds of millions of pounds worth of joint venture deals with others and facilitated those, is private investors want 5 things. And most people can't articulate them. They might have a guess, but they can't articulate them well. Try this. Investors want 5 things. They want return of their investment. The priority is always, how safe is my money? Because in the stock market, it ain't safe. How do you show that? Well, if you're someone looking to raise money, then if you can document clearly on a piece of paper how you're keeping yourself safe, because you're not trying to take unnecessary risks with your own money, are you? But most people don't show that, and they certainly don't share that in the right way. So if you can do that, and I'll show you how to do that in the document in a little while. The second, do you remember the story of Chris and Tracy and what the currency of that connection was? One of the part of that was the learning, wasn't it? And that means a return on intellect. They now understand something that they don't understand, how the stock market works. They don't understand what the manager's doing. They don't understand how they add value or lose value. When the stock market crashed in 2008, they didn't understand it. And when the market rises, they don't understand it. But if they can understand how an HMO works, why it's more profitable than a single let, what it is you do to make that that facilitation of that co-living, that shared living space, meaningful, green, energetic, in all sorts of different ways. And I'll come on to green and sustainability in a second. The third is return on interaction. They want to have a relationship. Humans are inexorably destined to have relationships and to build connections. So if you can show people, this is how you build a connection with me at name of your company, and you've got a process to build that relationship, and you care and consider them more than yourself, then you'll profit from that in an ethical way. That's a really powerful thing. Usually I've seen people at networking meetings when I've heard them, there's normally somebody talking very fast, very loud about a deal, and it's all about me, me, me. Stephen Covey once said, seek first to understand before being understood. And test this out. Ask people, in an ideal world, if you didn't have to put your money in the stock market, what would you like to do? And hear these things played out, or even test it. The fourth is return on impact, which means how are you doing something that's good, not just for you, not just good for your tenant, but good for society? Are you helping veterans? Are your properties long-term sustainable, using sustainable energy, using all sorts of things that are important to you and you share and give people a feeling that you're making an impact. Or you, like Toby and Kate, they brought a dilapidated property to life, you know, bringing properties that are empty and just accruing, well, I guess not accruing anything, just deteriorating really. So what's your uniqueness? What are you doing? And if you can articulate that, people will move mountains to share in an impact in a way. I spoke to somebody the other day, and the part of the profit they make from their properties is to give back to a charity that's really, really important to them. And you can see that you can certainly imagine there'll be people who'll be driven by that, moved by that even. Anyway, the final ROI is the return on. In other words, the return they get financially. And my experience is, if you do this well, and I know you're just hearing it for the first time, and hopefully you can tell I've done it many, many times, then once you discover how to, the cost of getting money is so much less than bridging. It's so much easier than bridging. It's so much fun than bridging, and it's so more dependable than bridging. You get no, if you do it well, people don't pull out because you've articulated these ROIs in a way that they've never seen anybody do before. And how you do that is you create a document. And in fact, the whole process of raising money from private investors is in 3 steps: before the money, during the money, and after the money. I'm not going to go into those things in any detail right now. That's a whole workshop in itself. But I will say that I've created a series of templates that you can copy, that you can have a go. And if you're part of Wendy's group, if you have a go, I promise to give you a free assessment, a free critique, to help you, not to criticize you like school, 6 out of 10, see me. No, but to try and help you get an outstanding piece of work done. And we can help you do that if you want to. Oh, by the way, this one was Mark's, the guy at the beginning with the 4 of them. You know, they created a document called Creating Shared Value. You can already see embedded in the heading, this is more about the investor than it is about them. And this is another guy. I'm going to send you both templates so you can see them. Is from a gentleman called Ian, who brings old buildings to life. Old buildings that, you know, are really just not doing anything anymore, and how to bring them into, in his case, service accommodation units in the north of England. So hopefully you can see that if you get creative in the finding of the deal and the finding of the funds, and maybe I've given you a clue about how that creativity can work, then just get curious. You won't get a solution. I said it's taken me 30 years to master this. I can't teach it to you in 30 minutes, but I can say get curious, get interested, find out a little bit more. If you resonate with me, I'll send you everything I've got. If you don't resonate with me, that's fine. Find somebody else, but do take some time to investigate the concept of SSAS for your pension and the concept of SSAS to help other people's as well. And I've got a time now for questions, but I'm just going to share with you, we'll have plenty of time for that because, you know, I've not really had an interactive session. I've really sort of delivered something to you, so that should give me a little bit more time. But what I will do is say I've created on behalf of Wendy, and it is a genuine not-for-profit partnership. You know, we help each other with a guide on a little bit more about SSAS, a video of me, looks like a long time ago, Kev, on Sky TV talking about the director's pension and debunking this pension myth, and the templates, and they're all free. Okay, and if you connect with me in person on LinkedIn or Facebook, I'll send you my books. But you have to connect with me personally and say, I want the books, Kevin, and I'll send them to you. Otherwise, these are property resources designed to help you get more HMO success. So hopefully that's useful. I know if there's not too many live, Wendy, there might not be too many people who will do that, but if it gets recorded and, you know, part of what you do, that will be great, because the more people who find out about this, the better it is. Wendy, I hope that was useful, and it served as best I can your community on this Thursday evening. I'm more than happy to just leave that on screen for anybody who wants it. And dive into questions whenever you're ready, if anybody's got one.